I was not supposed to be out that night, not in that weather, not at that hour, and definitely not walking toward a house that felt wrong from a distance. But sometimes the smallest decisions lead you straight into something you can never escape. The rain was relentless. It hammered against the pavement like it was trying to erase the world's streetlights, flickered above me, casting broken shadows across the empty road. Each step I took felt heavier than the last. I kept telling myself this was nothing, just a quick stop, return the screwdriver, and go back home. That was the plan. 2 days earlier, I had borrowed it from my neighbor, a simple tool, nothing special, but for some reason keeping it felt wrong, like unfinished business, like something was pulling me back to her door. And now, here I was, standing in front of her house. Everything about it felt off. No lights, no sound, no movement, just darkness, sitting quietly behind the windows. I hesitated. Maybe I should come back tomorrow. Maybe I should just leave it by the door and walk away, but something inside me refused. So I raised my hand and knocked once. The sound echoed louder than it should have. Waited, nothing. I knocked again, this time slower, heavier, and then the door creaked open slowly, like it did not want to. She stood there for a moment. I almost did not recognize her. Her face was pale, her breathing uneven, her eyes moving past me, like she was searching for something in the darkness behind me. Her hair was messy, not in a casual a way that said something was wrong, something very wrong. She looked at me like I was not supposed to be there, like I had interrupted something, and then she leaned closer and whispered, "You picked the right night to show up." Her voice was low, shaky, almost like she did not believe her own words. I tried to laugh it off, tried to keep things normally, just came to return this sigh. Held up the screwdriver, expecting her to take it, but she did not even look at it at not once. Instead, her hand shot forward. She grabbed my wrist tight before I could react. She pulled me inside. The door slammed shut behind me. The sound hit hard, loud enough to make my heart jump. "Do not turn on the lights," she said quickly, her voice sharper, no more urgent. I frowned, trying to understand what is going on, but before she could answer, I heard a loud thud from upstairs. Not something falling, something heavy, something deliberately. Both froze. Then came the footsteps, slow each step pressing into the silence like it owned the house, and I knew instantly those were not her footsteps. She turned toward me, her face completely drained of color. "He is here." The words barely left her mouth, but they hit harder than anything else here. Cold feeling spread through my chest. "Who?" I asked, but deep down I was not sure I wanted the answer. She did not respond, not with words. Instead, she grabbed my arm again, her hands shaking no, and pulled me toward the kitchen. We moved quickly but quietly, like the house itself was listening, like every step mattered. And then I saw it. The moment we reached the kitchen doorway, everything changed. Broken glass scattered across the floor, a chair knocked over, and there on the tiles, something dark, something that did not belong. Blood, not a small amount, not something you could ignore. It was fresh, still glistening under the faint light coming from outside. I stopped moving. My body refused to take another step. My mind tried to catch up, tried to make sense of what I was seeing, but nothing about this made sense. This was not normal. This was not just a late-night visit. This was something else entirely, something dangerous, something real behind me. I could still hear the footsteps closer, now slower, like whoever it was knew exactly where Rewind was taking their time. I looked at her, really looked at her this time, and what I saw was not just fire. It was something deeper, something heavier, like she had already been through this moment before, like she knew how this could end. My voice came out quieter than I expected. "What did you get me into?" She shook her head quickly. "I did not mean for you to be here." Her grip tightened again. "But you are here now." Another step echoed above us, louder, closer, and suddenly the house felt smaller, the walls closing in the air, heavier. Every instinct in my body screamed the same thing: run, but my feet would not move, because deep down I knew it was already too late for that. I had knocked on the door. I had stepped inside, and whatever was happening in this house, I was part of it now, whether I wanted to be or not. The footsteps stopped, right above us, filled the space, a heavy, suffocating silence, and in that moment, I realized something that made my chest tighten. This was not just a wrong place, wrong time situation. This was something bigger, something planned, or maybe something waiting for someone like me to walk in. And I did, without thinking, without knowing, without any idea that returning a simple screwdriver would be the worst decision of my life. because whatever was upstairs, was not just looking for her. It knew I was here, too, and it was coming closer one step at a time. Footsteps entered the house, heavy, confident. Each step pressed into the floor like it belonged there, like he had every right to be inside, like this was his territory. He was not sneaking, he was not rushing, he was taking his time, and somehow that made it worse because it meant one thing: he was not afraid. He knew she was here, and now he knew I was Toei. Could hear him moving slowly through the living room, soft creak of wood, the faint shift of something being pushed aside. He was searching, but not in panic. Controlled, like a hunter who already knows where the prey is hiding. Then his voice, cold, calm, almost casual. "I know you are here." The words slid through the house like ice. My stomach dropped instantly beside me. She was shaking, not just nervous, terrified, her breath uneven, her fingers gripping my arm like I was the only thing holding her together. Leaned closer, trying to keep my voice steady. "We can still get out the back," even as I said it, I knew it sounded weak, desperate. "There is no back exit," she whispered, her voice barely there. That answer hit hard. No way out, no easy escape. Just one door between us and him, and that door suddenly felt paper thin. The footsteps got closer, slow, measured, each one louder than the last, closer, until they stopped right outside the door. My heart slammed against my chest so hard I was sure he could hear it. Stopped breathing beside me. She covered her mouth, trying to stay silent. The air inside the small storage room felt suffocating, thick, heavy, like the walls were closing in. Then a shadow moved under the crack of the door. Still he was standing there, listening, waiting. Seconds stretched into something unbearable, too long, too quiet. Then a soft sound. The doorknob shifted slightly, not fully turning, just enough to let us know he was right there. My muscles tensed, every instinct screamed to run, to fight, to do something, but my body stayed frozen, because one wrong move, one single sound, and it would all be over. The knob stopped moving. Silence. Again his voice returned, lower this time, almost thoughtfully. "Always did like to hide her." Grip tightened instantly. I felt her fingers dig into my sleeve. He knew her, not just knew her, understood her. That made this worse, much worse. Sai leaned closer to her ear. "We cannot stay here forever." She nodded slightly, but her eyes said something else, for doubt and something deeper, something she was not telling me. The shadow under the door shifted, then slowly disappeared. His footsteps moved away, not fast, not rushed, just slow enough to make us question if he had really gone. We waited 1 second, 2 seconds, 10, still nothing. I exhaled, slowly, trying to steady my breathing, but my heart refused to calm down. "We have to move," I whispered. She hesitated, just for a moment, then nodded slowly, carefully, reached for the door, my hand hovering over the handle. This was at the moment that would decide everything. I turned it gently, barely making a sound. The door opened just enough for us to slip through. The hallway was darker now, colder, like the house had changed. We stepped out quietly, every movement controlled, every breath measured. The silence felt wrong to complete, too empty. "Where did he go?" whispered. She shook her head. "I do not know, but that was the problem. Not knowing meant danger. Not knowing meant he could be anywhere, watching, waiting." Moved toward the kitchen again, step by step, careful not to make a sound. The broken glass still lay scattered across the floor, the blood still there, a reminder that this was real, that none of this was in our heads. Then suddenly a floorboard creaked behind. UC turned instantly, but saw nothing, just darkness. My pulse spiked again. He was still here. He had to bay. Stepped slightly in front of her, without thinking, trying to shield her, even though I was not sure I could protect either of us. "We need to leave now," I whispered. She nodded again, this time faster, more urgent. We moved toward the front, each step heavier than the last. Door was right there, just a few more feet. Freedom, safety, chance to escape this nightmare. Reached for the handle, my fingers brushing against its hand. Then a voice behind us, so close it felt like it came from inside my head. "Leaving so soon?" I froze instantly. My blood ran cold. Slowly I turned around, and there he was, standing in the darkness, watching. A faint smile on his face, like he had been waiting for this exact moment, like this was all part of something we did not understand. Yet beside me, I felt her step back, her fear returning stronger than before. My mind raced, trying to figure out what to do next, but one thing was clear: this was not over, not even close, because now we were no longer hiding. Now we were face to face with whatever had followed her into this house, and judging by the look in his eyes, he was not here to leave quietly. He was here to finish something, and somehow we had just become part of it. For a moment, no one moved, not me, not her, not him. The air between us felt heavy, like it was waiting for something to break. He stood there in the shadows, calm and still, that faint smile still on his face, like this was nothing more than a game, like we were already trapped, and he was just deciding how to end it. My heart pounded so loud it drowned out everything else, but I forced myself to stand my ground. I could not show fear, not in front of him. "What do you want?" I said. My voice came out stronger than I expected, but inside, I felt anything but strong. He tilted his head slightly, studying me like I was something new, something unexpected. "You are not part of this," he said calmly. "You should not have come here." I clenched my fists. "Too late for that. I am here now." His smile widened just a little. "Yes, you aren't. That changes things." Beside me, she stepped back again, her breathing uneven. "Do not talk to him," she whispered. But I did not take my eyes off him. "Who are you?" I asked. He ignored the question. Instead, he took a slow step forward, then another, each movement controlled, deliberate, like he knew we had nowhere to go, like he was closing the distance on purpose. I shifted my stance, ready to react even though I had no real plan. "Stay back," I said. He stopped just a few feet away, now close enough that I could finally see his face clearly, cold, eye-sharp features, no hesitation. He looked like someone who had done this before many times. "You were trying to be brave," he said softly, "but bravery without understanding is just another form of fear." His words hit deeper than I expected, because part of me knew he was right. He did not understand any of this, not him, not her, not what was happening, but I was still standing here, and that had to mean something. Behind me, I felt her move slightly. I could tell she was thinking, planning something, or maybe just trying to survive. "Like me, you need to leave," she said, suddenly, her voice stronger now. "This is not about him, it is about me." He let out a quiet laugh. "Oh, it is about both of you. Now you brought him into this." Her silence confirmed it. Something shifted in that moment, something I could not fully explain, but I felt it. This was not random, this was not just bad timing. There was more to this story, and I was right in the middle of it. "What did you do?" I asked her, quietly. She did not answer, not directly. Instead, her eyes met mine, and for a brief second, I saw something different. Not just fear, not just panic, something darker, something hidden. But before I could say anything else, he moved fast. Fast. 1 second, he was standing still, the next he was lunging forward. I barely had time to react. Instinct took over. I stepped back and grabbed the nearest thing I could find, a metal pan from the counter. Heat swung at me, blocked it just in time. The impact sent a sharp jolt through my arms. He was stronger than I expected. We struggled for a moment, the sound of metal hitting against force echoing through the room. I pushed back with everything I had, breaking free just enough to create space. "Run!" shouted, but she did not move. Why was she not moving? "Go!" I yelled against till nothing. For a split second, my attention shifted toward her hand. That was my mistake. He saw, I always saw everything. His hand came at me again, this time faster. I barely managed to dodge, but I lost my balance, falling hard against the counter. Pain shot through my side. My grip loosened, the pan slipped from my hand. It hit the floor with a loud crash. He stepped closer again. "No rush, no panic, just control, always control. You are learning," he said calmly, but not fast enough. I scrambled back, trying to create distance, my mind racing for anything, any way out, any advantage. But the room felt smaller now, the walls tighter, the exits farther away. Then suddenly a sound behind him. He turned his head slightly, just enough, and in that moment, she moved fast, decisive. She grabbed a glass bottle from the counter and swung it hard. It shattered against his shoulder. Sound sharp and sudden. He staggered back, slightly more surprised than hurt. "Move," she shouted this time. I did not hesitate. I pushed myself up, ignoring the pain. We ran through the hallway, past the broken glass, toward the stairs. Wait, why the stairs? There was no exit up there, but she was already moving. Hand right now. Following her was the only option. We rushed. A peach step, loud echoing behind us. I heard him again, recovering quickly, faster than he should have. He was not done, not even close. We reached the top. The hallway stretched in front of us, dark, silent doors on both sides. "Which way?" I asked. "This way," she said, pulling me toward the far end, her voice urgent, now different, like she had made a decision, like she knew something I did not. We reached the last door. She pushed it open. Inside was a room, dim light, disorder, more Signs of struggle. My chest tightened. This place held answers. I could feel it, but there was no time. He was coming. I could hear his steps. Again, closer, faster, no more games, just pursuit. She turned toward me, her expression serious now. No fear, just focus. If we do not make it out of this. Her words stopped halfway. No, said quickly, we are getting out. We have to. For a second, she looked at me, really looked at me like she was deciding something. Then she nodded on. In that moment, I realized something had changed. Fear was still there, danger was still real, but now, this was not just about hiding, not just about surviving. This was about fighting back, because whatever this man wanted, whatever he came here to finish, we were not going to make it easy for him, not anymore. The footsteps reached the top of the stairs, heavy, fast, and getting closer. This time we were ready. The footsteps reached the hallway, heavy, fast, no hesitation. Now he was done playing and we were out of time. I could feel it in the air. That shift, that moment when fear turns into something sharper, something more dangerous. I turned toward her. What now? I asked, my voice low but urgent. She did not answer right away. Her eyes moved across the room quickly, thinking, calculating, like she was searching for something only she understood. Then she spoke. We hold him here. The words hit me harder than anything else. Hold him in a place with no escape, no weapons, no planner. You serious? I said. She looked straight at me, completely calm. Now to calm. We cannot keep running, she said. If we go down there, he will corner us. If we stay up here, we control the space. Her logic made sense, but something about her tone, about the way she said it, felt off, like she had done this before. The footsteps grew louder, closer. He was almost at the dorm. My pulse spiked again. Fine, I said. What do we do? She stepped closer to me, lowered her voice. When he comes in, do not hesitate. It him, do not think, just act. He nodded, even though doubt was building inside me. Something was not right, but I had no choice. The handle began to turn slowly. The door creaked open, and there he was again, standing in the frame, calm as ever, that same faint smile on his face, like nothing we had done so far had mattered. You are learning, he said softly. Running was never going to work. I tightened my fists. This ends now. He stepped inside, closing the door behind him, locking us in, or maybe locking himself in with us. See the where there was no going back. He looked at her, not me, her, and something changed in his expression. Not anger, not fear, recognition. You brought him into this, he said. Her silence answered him. My felt it instantly, that shift again, that feeling that I was missing something important. What is he talking about? I said. Neither of them answered right away. They just looked at each other, like they were having a conversation without words. Then finally, she spoke. I did not have a choice. His smile faded slightly. You always have a choice. That lined the way he said it carried history weight, something deeper than this moment. I stepped forward enough. Tell me, what is going on this time? She turned toward me, and for the first time there was no fear in her eyes, no panic. Something cold, something controlled. I was not running from him, she said quietly. My chest tightened in. Why are we hiding? She held my gaze. Because I needed him to come here. Everything went still. What? The word barely left my mouth, but it echoed inside. May needed him here, she repeated. My mind struggled to process it. Nothing made sense anymore. The fear, the panic, the chase, it all felt different now, like I had misunderstood everything. He let out a soft laugh. There it is, the truth. I looked between them, my heart pounding harder than ever. You set this up. She did not deny it, not even for a second. He needed him in one place, she said. Somewhere, controlled somewhere. I could end it. My stomach dropped. End it. The word felt heavier than anything else she had said. Then the blood downstairs, the broken glass that was not from him. She shook her head, slowly. No, that was from someone else. Sheer cold wave ran through my body. Someone else. How many people were involved in this? How much had I walked into without knowing? Why me? I asked. Why pull me into this? For a moment something almost human crossed her face. Because you were there, because you knocked, because I needed someone he would not expect. My chest tightened. So I was just a too-late distraction, a piece in whatever game this was. He stepped closer again. Now we are all being honest. Good. That makes this easier for what? I said. He looked directly at me. For you to understand you are in the wrong place. That the wrong time with the wrong people. I almost laughed because for once, that part was true, but something else was becoming clear. This was not just about survival anymore. This was about truth, and the truth was dangerous. You both are insane, I said. Her expression did not change, Mabby, but we are still harangued. Now so our youth. That was the moment. Everything shifted completely. Fear was no longer the only thing driving me now. There was anger, confusion, and something else, something sharper. I am not part of this, I said firmly. I am leaving. Guy moved toward the door, but before I could reach, Ethyth stepped in front of me, blocking the way. You are already part of this, he said. You just do not understand how yet. My patience snapped. I am done listening. I pushed forward, trying to force my way past him. Big mistake. He grabbed my arm hard, too fast to react. Pain shot through my shoulder. I twisted, trying to break free, but his grip was solid and moving. You should have stayed home tonight, he said, quietly behind him. She moved again, fast, precise. This time, there was no hesitation, no fear. She grabbed something from the table. Blade, small but sharp, and stepped closer. Do not, she said, her voice low but commanding. He paused, not out of fear, but awareness. You would not, he replied, but there was uncertainty in his tone. Now for the first time she stepped even closer, the blade steady in her hand. You do not know what I would do. Any more. Silence filled the room, thick, heavy, everything balanced on a single momentum. Single decision. I stood there between them, no longer sure who the real threat was, no longer sure who I should trust. Then slowly he released my arm, stepping back, his eyes locked on hers. It's interesting, he said, very interesting. He moved away immediately, putting distance between us. My mind racing. This was not over, not even close, because now I understood one thing clearly. The real danger in this house was not just the man who walked in it, was the truth that had been hiding in plain sight. The woman who had been pretending to be afraid from the very beginning. The game had changed. I had no idea how it was going to end. The room fell into a strange silence, not the kind that feels peaceful, the kind that feels like something is about to break. Stood there between them, breathing hard, mind racing, heart refusing to slow down. Everything I thought I understood was gone. She was not the victim. He was not just a hunter, and May was no longer just a bystander. I was part of this, whether I wanted it or not to. Said you wanted to end this, I said, my voice steady, now stronger than before. Then end it. She looked at Marie, looked at Meal, like she was trying to decide something final. Then she turned toward Hemet. Ends tonight, she said. No more running, no more games. He smiled again, but this time it was different. Less control, more curiosity. You think you can end this, he said. You already tried once and you failed. Her grip on the blade tightened. Not this time. Silence again, heavy, sharp. Then everything happened at once. He moved first, fast, direct, but this time she was ready. She stepped aside at the last second, her movement precise. Fear Skilly saw it clearly. Now this was not her first time facing something like this. He lunged again, but she reacted instantly, the blade flashing in the dim light. Sharp movement, a quick strike. He pulled back just in time, barely avoiding it. They circled each other like two people who knew exactly what the other was capable of. This was not random, this was history, and I was standing in the middle of it, watching, trying to understand, trying to survive. Move, she shouted, suddenly her voice snapping me out of it. Stepped back, immediately giving them space, but also searching, looking for something, anything, a way out, a way to end this. My eyes landed on the metal pan still lying on the floor. I grabbed it again, my grip tighter. This time no hesitation, no doubt. If I had to fight, I would fight. He attacked again, faster, no more aggressive, no more calm, no more control. She blocked, dodged, countered, every move sharp, every movement intentional. Then suddenly he shifted direction, turning toward me instead, his eyes locked onto Manand. In that moment, understood Dai was the weakness, the distraction, the unpredictable variable. He came straight at Menno. Warning, no pause. I raised the pan. Instinctively the impact rang through the room. Pain shot through my arms, but I held on barely. He pushed harder, felt myself slipping. Then she moved again from the side, fast, precise. The blade struck. This time it connected. Day. Sharp intake of breath escaped him. He stepped back, staggering slightly. For the first time he looked surprised. Not defeated, but shaken. This is over, she said, her voice cold, final. He looked at her, then at me. Then something unexpected happened. He laughed, not loud, not wild, just a quiet laugh. You think this ends here, he said. You think one night changes everything. Her expression did not change. It already has. He shook his head slowly. No. This is just the beginning. Those words hit harder than anything else, because deep down I felt the truth in them. This was not clean. This was not finished. This was something bigger, something that would not just disappear. He stepped Back again then, another step moving toward the door, not running, not panicking, just leaving like he had decided. Something like this moment was not worth continuing. Not tonight. We watched him, neither of us moving, neither of us speaking, until he reached the door. He paused, one hand on the handle, then he looked back, his eyes locking onto Minyu. Should have stayed home, he said quietly. Then he was going. The door opened, closed, and, just like that, the house fell silent again. But this time it felt different, not safe, just empty. I stood there for a long moment, trying to process everything, trying to breathe, trying to understand. Then slowly I turned toward her. "Is over," I said, but even as I said it, I knew it was not true. She looked at the door, then back at me. "No, it is nothing." Voice was calm, again controlled, like everything had returned to normal. For her, "Who are you?" I asked the question, finally escaping the one that had been building since the beginning. She hesitated just for a second. Then she answered, "Someone who does what needs to be done." That was not an answer, not really, but it was all she was willing to give. Why? Stepped back, creating a distant sigh. "I'm leaving this time." She did not stop me, did not argue, did not try to explain. She simply nodded. "You should." I moved toward the stairs edge. Step slower than the last. The house felt different now, not dangerous, just wrong, like it held secrets I would never fully understand. I reached the front door, opened it. The rain was still falling, cold, heavy. Really stepped outside, the air hitting my face, pulling me back to reality, or something close to it. I did not look back. I could not, because I knew if I did, might see something I would never forget, or were something that would follow. May walked away fast at first, then faster, until the house disappeared behind me, until the streetlights blurred, until my chest burned. But I did not stop, not until I reached home, not until I locked the door behind me, not until I convinced myself I was safe. But even then, Evan sitting alone in the silence, I knew something had changed, something permanent. The next morning I went back. I do not know why. Maybe I needed proof, maybe I needed closure, maybe I just needed to know it was real. But when I got there, the house was empty, clean, no broken glass, no blood, no signs of anything. Like nothing had ever happened, like the entire night had been reassed. I stood there staring, trying to make sense of it, but there was nothing to make sense of. No answers, no evidence, just silence. That was the worst part, because now I had no way to prove it, no way to explain it, no way to forget it. And sometimes late at night, when everything is quiet, when the world feels still, I remember her words. "You picked the right night to show up." And I realized something that still sends a chill down my spine. It was not luck, it was not coincidence. I did not just walk into that night. I was part of it from the moment I knocked on that door. And whatever started there, whatever ended there, is not really over, because somewhere out there she is still watching. And Mabesso is here, and one day they might come back to finish what that night started.